You know, I don't know how Lindsay does it. I don't know. I think this might be the end of Lindsay and Joe. I don't know what's coming down the pike. Um, but anyways, welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christina Kristina. This is where we read books, talk about books, no special effects going on here. Maybe a cat fight or two. Smoke. Smoke. All right, they went upstairs. Okay. No editing skills here either. I'm sorry. No editing. Please check out Flashback Mondays for Romantic Times book reviews. Please check out Star Trek Fridays and If Then Fridays. Those will be constant series. I'm a series person. I like series. I like to read about the series progression. And I'm telling you, Romantic Times is as valid today as it was back then. You can get new authors. You can find new books. A whole 9 yards. And then check out my daily book reviews. And this is a daily book review. James Patterson's 15th Affair. And I'm telling you, this is a loaded book. There is lots and lots of info in here. Usually we have a little Claire story and a Yuki story and a Cindy story. These are your murder club ladies. Lindsay's a sergeant detective with the San Francisco Police Department. Cindy is the newspaper reporter. Yuki is used to be ADA, now she's freelancing with this other legal defense people. And Claire is our ME. And we usually get a couple little separate stories going on here. But this is one huge Lindsay story which is connected with other parts. And Joe is Lindsay's husband. And Brady is Cindy's husband. And then Jacoby is the big boss. I think I get that right. I keep forgetting. So this is just huge Lindsay Joe story. And the implications will affect their marriage for books to come. I can see it. Very, very serious stuff. And I don't know. You know, in my world, now I know the rest of you live in a different world, but in my world, it's family first. Family first. The job asks you, hey, you know, I missed out and I'm sorry. Long time ago, I had a small shift and I had a relative in town and it was probably going to be the last time I would see that person. And it was because they died soon after and my supervisor wouldn't let me off. And so my job was in jeopardy. So I had to work my shift. And I also missed seeing my relative and he died a few months later. And I will always hold that grudge over my supervisor that she felt that my answering her telephone for a couple hours was more important than seeing a relative for the very last time, who I hadn't seen in years either. So it was a one-time thing. And she prevented me from doing that. And, you know, family first. Family first. Yeah, I wasn't supporting a whole group of people at that juncture. So it's different if you're married and have kids or whatever, and your boss comes to you and gives you this life or death situation. But back then, it was just me. So I'm still kind of, that still bothers me all these years later. And I know you need to let it go, but I have regrets higher than the Empire State Building, so we won't even go there right now. But anyway, we've got someone. All right, so we're having some spy action, some CIA, some FBI, some other agencies getting involved in this little security business. So these people are doing it in a hotel. And unbeknownst to them, there are cameras all over the room, and there are several different people watching them do this stuff. And in the meantime, A housekeeper is getting killed. The people watching them are getting killed. There's a third person unknown to everybody else is watching. And another person down in the lobby there's so many people involved in this, and these people in the hotel end up getting killed. So you have 3 deaths in the hotel. 4 deaths. The housekeeper, the 2 people doing the surveillance, one of the 2 people having sex, and then of course the housekeeper and an additional parties involved. And Lindsay and her group are investigating the deaths in the hotel. At the same time, someone is trying to kill Lindsay. They beat her up. They abuse her terribly. They try to kill her in a car accident. They shoot at her. They try to kill her several times. There is a massive plane crash, possibly done by terrorists, and Joe is missing. He's gone missing. No phone calls, no emails, no text messages, nothing. He does nothing to contact her, ever. And she's worrying and worrying and worrying and doing her job and worrying and doing her job and worrying. And then we have the plane crash that I mentioned previously. And there are dead bodies everywhere. And they send them to different places, the morgues, right? So bodies go missing. We have the deaths in the hotel. We have the plane crash with missing unidentified bodies. We have Joe missing. We have people coming after Lindsay. It gets to be a very complicated, very multi-layered plot. Lots of details. Tons upon tons of details. Some of the chapters are short, but some of them are long, and each one is different by most of these are by Lindsay. Most of the point of view is by Lindsay in this whole book. I don't think it goes off. It may go off Lindsay a little bit, but I don't think it goes off Lindsay much. Then other people start being killed. In the meantime, Lindsay is reviewing video for the hotel, and you know who comes in that hotel? Joe! She sees Joe in the hotel footage, and she tries to call him, and there's no answer. And then there's surveillance going on one of the victims' houses, and you know who drives by? Joe! Again! So she spotted him several times in surveillance videos. And it becomes apparent that he knew in advance about the plane. It later revealed that he may have not known specifics, but he knew there was a hint about a possible plane attack. And there is so much multi-layered here. There are so many details. And his wife is getting beaten. She's almost killed a few times, and he never responds to her calls or her texts. His mailbox is full. All his computer equipment is missing from the house. He's just horrible. And it turns out he has a past that Lindsay didn't know about. He hid stuff from her. Apparently, he wasn't Homeland Security. That's what he was doing when she met him. But apparently, before that, he was FBI. And she knew a little bit of that from his ex-girlfriend, June. But it turns out he was CIA before that. He left college and went CIA, FBI, Homeland. Lindsay had no idea about the CIA. And Lindsay ends up contacting the ex-girlfriend June to get information. And Lindsay's flying all over the country. She goes to DC and has clandestine meetings with all these different people to get the new information on her husband. Because he's not communicating with her. He's not communicating with her. He's not telling her anything. She's a worried wife. The least he could do was say he was still alive. She had no idea where he was or what he was doing. He was very, very inconsiderate person. So we have the plane crash. She's investigating people. They go and talk to the husband of this lady that was killed. He had no clue she had this secret life. No clue. Lindsay finds a secret room in his house that he didn't know existed. And finds all bunch of adult erotica in that room that he didn't know existed. There's so many secrets in here. So many secrets. And then Joe comes out of hiding because Lindsay goes to talk to the FBI. She wants to know answers to her questions. She has questions. She wants answers. And if they give her answers, she may or may not give them additional information. And you know who comes out behind the closed door? Her husband. That rotten creep of a man that has kept her worried for days. No text messages, no phone calls, no communication at all. None. Do you know what he says? Now, I'm not going to spoil it with the details because she totally thinks that he could have helped prevent the airplane thing. We don't know all of what he knew at this juncture. But she says to him, one of the people involved in the shooting was Miller. So she says to him, "What are your plans?" He says, "I have to locate Miller." "No, I meant, when are you coming home?" Do you know what he says? This husband that made wedding vows to this woman. Do you know what he says? I didn't mean to say that. It just jumped out of my mouth and into the room. Joe looked into my eyes and reached for me again, and this time I let him wrap his big mitts around my hands. I wanted to believe in him. I wanted life to go back to the way it was, had it only been a couple of weeks ago. Was that possible? And he says, the rotten creep of a man, "I can't make a plan, Lindsay. Country first. That is what I do. It's what I've always done." And she leaves. Country first. Country first. How about family first, then country? Or family first, then your job? But he's got a kid. He's got an infant daughter. He'd rather spend time with country. And by this, I mean surveillances and undercover operations while his daughter grows up without him. I guess a lot of cops do that too. There's a lot of detectives over there that work overtime. But at least he could contact his wife and say he was alive. It was infuriating to watch Lindsay suffer continually like this. And we don't know a lot. A lot of people are killed. There's quite a few deaths in this book. There's quite a few twists and turns. There's never really a prime there's suspects and then there's suspects, and you have to really. It's none of it's too clear on what happened, but it's just so layered, so much, and it's all Lindsay. Just about 90% of this book is Lindsay, which is usually not the case for these books. But you will have to read it and find out for yourself. It's just, I've got this expression. It's just make fill in the sentence. It's just good. It's just bad. It's just horrible. It's just frustrating as all hell. It's just annoying as all hell that Joe is just keeping all this stuff from him. I took about 30, 40 pages of notes for this book, for this vid, but I'm not going to give it all to you in my details. But I'm just going to say the who shot the plane down, who bombed the plane. Why are there two Michael Chans? You'll have to read this book for the answers to that. Why has Joe disappeared? What is his role in all this stuff that's gone down? There's just so much going on in this book with Lindsay. And her poor neighbor is doing all the babysitting. She's an angel. Lindsay ends up taking some time off in the middle of the book because she's been beaten. Her life has been beaten, and her husband doesn't even come to see her. He had to have known because they're all under surveillance. So he had to have known. So this man's got a lot to answer for. And sorry, just don't cut it. It's the time that actions speak louder than words. That's the time. He needs to step up to the plate and do actions and not, because the last time we heard, he'd been fired from his last job. We had no knowledge that Joe had gotten a new job. So we'll see what goes on with that while we move on to the 16th seduction. But please check it out. Enjoy a good read, a very frustrating read, a very angry read, and have a good day. Thank you.